Hello everyone, and welcome to Judy's Creations in Crochet. Today is January the 6th, 2022, the first video of the year, and I'm happy to have you join me. I hope you had a very relaxing, safe, and fun holiday season, that you had a chance to get together with family and friends and enjoy yourself. I'm just so happy to be back again after 3 months of bringing you these videos. My number of subscribers keeps increasing, which I find to be a very hopeful sign that you are enjoying the content that I'm bringing to you. So I ask that you please, if you're just finding me for the first time, please subscribe. And when you do subscribe, be sure to check that, click on that bell and change it to all so that you get notified of all of my videos. I only videotape once a week, so you won't be bombarded with videos from me. And it also helps if you like and comment. I really enjoy the comments that people leave me, and I respond to every comment that I get. And the other thing that is a really big help is to watch the video through right to the very end. And I always tell you what's coming in the next week if you listen through to the end. And it's not that I'm trying to get monetized. The reason I say all of these things is simply that it makes me more visible to the YouTube algorithm, and then it puts me up higher in the searches. So when people are looking for something that I'm offering, they will find me and watch my video. Because as I've said before, the only real reason that I'm doing these videos is first to share with you my love of crochet, my love of yarns, particularly hand-dyed yarns, and to hopefully send some traffic to my Facebook page. If you haven't been to my Facebook page, please take a minute to have a look there. And on my Facebook page, business page, I have all of the items that I have made posted there, and of course they are for sale, and I'm hoping that people will find my business page and possibly buy an item that I've made. So let's start first with what Hope and I are wearing. I'm wearing something very simple today. It's cool down here. My house has levels and I'm down in the 3rd level, and so it's always cooler down here. And this is just an infinity scarf. It's long enough to twist and wind around my neck a second time if I wanted to, but I decided to leave it hanging down. There is no pattern to it. It's very, very similar to the moss stitch. Only I think I used double crochets instead of single crochets because I was trying to make the holes bigger. You can't see them, but the holes are quite substantial to do the stitching, which is what you need when you're using such a big, fuzzy, furry yarn as this. And I think this is called faux fur. I believe it's just something I found in Michael's, and I think it might have been loops and threads. And I felt it, and it was just so fuzzy I had to have it. So I made this scarf out of it. It is very, very cuddly, soft. You want to roll up in it, wrap it around you. And I think it's great when it's out long to put down the front if you have a coat over it in the wintertime. Behind the zipper or buttons, this would give some added warmth in the front. Or if you wanted to wear it twisted around your neck twice, it would be very, very warm and fill in nicely around your neck. So no pattern, and I'm pretty sure it's loops and threads, and they don't have it in. Loops and threads never keeps any of their yarns for any length of time. So that's what I'm wearing just to be warm down here. Now, what is Hope wearing? This is what I promised you. So what do you think? This is, I looked it up and I see that Reggie called it the Masquerade Shawl. And this is the shawl made from the first 8 minis in the advent calendar that I purchased this past Christmas from Reggie at J Hook Crochet. Now I'll actually unwind it so you can see the whole thing. Only using 8 minis gives you a very long shawl. You can see it's quite wide. It's an asymmetrical shawl, and it's quite wide at the one end, and it is very, very long. I'll never get it all in one frame. And I even left out, I'll admit, I left out a tiny bit of the yellow, only because I wanted to end at the end of sort of like a repeat. I'll explain that in a minute. And I had some of this last color left over. I would have liked to have done a wider band, but the repeat pattern is 4 rows. And if you stop in the middle of it, it would look kind of funny, and I'll show you why in a minute. And there was not enough at this wide end to do another 4 rows. So I had just a small ball of it left as well. I plan to do this pattern again, but I'm going to do it maybe twice. One of the times I'm going to use probably a gradient cake. I think this would be lovely in a gradient cake, and I have some that are 800 meters. This actual shawl would have about 600 and maybe 30 meters in it. So 800 would be quite lengthy. Now, what I mean about the repeat pattern is because the rows back and forth, it's actually only a 2-row repeat. But at the ends, while you're making the pattern, it also includes this edging. And the edging actually takes 4 rows going back and forth. You start the first part of it in the first 2 rows, and then in the 3rd and 4th row, you do the next part to make this. It's a lovely, lovely edging. I've never done anything like this before, and I really enjoyed doing it. But you can see at the end, I ended with 1, and I would have had to do 4 more rows to get another complete, I don't know what you call it, shell of some sort. And I didn't want to leave it half a shell or the beginnings of the shell without the ending of the shell. It would have looked kind of odd doing 2 rows. I probably had enough for 2 rows, but not 4. So I will probably do it in a gradient cake sometime. And my other thought was to get 2 colors and do it mostly in a solid, excuse me, and then put a stripe of the other color every so often. I might do that as well. So that is quite lovely. These are not my colors. I can't wear these colors. I'm a cool color, so that's why a lot of black and purples and blues and bright pinks and aquas. But when I'm finished taping today, I will put this on and take a quick picture with my masquerade mask to send off to Reggie, because that's what we're supposed to do. So I will take a picture, but sorry, Reggie, not my colors. Also, sorry for the noise you just heard, but I have my other iPad here because I have some things to show you. and I can't control when mail comes in and it makes that noise. So that's what Hope is wearing. And I haven't decided what I'm going to do with the other minis. I'm not going to make another one of these. I want to put them into some other kind of pattern. I'm not sure what. So that's what Hope was wearing. We'll just put her to the side. And finally, I don't know if you noticed, if you're looking, but Kiki has a new dress for January. Just a quick word about it. It is mostly made out of latte cake. The white is latte. And the blue in between. If you remember, back in late November, early December, I made one more version of Reggie's Zurzur shawl in a blue and white variegated sparkle yarn. I wore it actually in one of my videos, and I had a little bit of that blue and white left over, so I used it to put alternating rows in this for Kiki's January dress. I also have her February dress done already too. It's a way to use some of my minis. So next, I want to say thank you to a few people that sent me cards. I showed you one. It's up here, that in December, and this one just arrived today. Merry Christmas. And this is from Natalie at Natalie's Closet. And I think it was 1 or 2 days before New Year's, in the holidays, I received a card from Reggie. I just love all the extra touches. She puts some really nice, they aren't even stickers, they stick on, but they're 3D on the back of the envelope. And then here's the card, which of course none of us can read unless you live in Germany. But thank you very much. She wrote a personal note of warm wishes inside and included this calendar. And this is magnetic. And I just love it, Reggie. A great touch. And I would have really loved to put it up somewhere here in my videotaping room. But everything is wood and plastic. I would have loved to have put it up here somehow. So right now, it's going to hang on my fridge in the kitchen, but it's still a great reference. I love what she says. Plan whatever you want, but remember, Sundays are all reserved for Yarniversity. And there's her Yarniversity emblem there. So thank you very much, Reggie. I enjoyed getting that. So, the holidays are over. Some people are back to work. We're in shutdown again because of this new virus that's out and about. So, we're staying home. But with the beginning of a new year, do you find that you make plans for the new year, or do you make resolutions? Or somehow do you sit down and reflect on the old year, what you might have accomplished and what you would like to accomplish in the coming year? Well, I actually did take some time. I don't every year, but I did take some time this year and give it some thought about what I would like to accomplish or to do in the new year. Not resolutions. In the past, I've made them, and, resolutions, they say, last a month. I didn't want to make resolutions, although I need to. But I did want to make some plans for the coming year. And having a YouTube channel makes you think about that and think ahead. And I am naturally an organizer and a list maker. It's just part of my nature. I just love organizing my yarn and patterns and so on. So one of the first things I did was this year, for the first time ever, I bought myself this crochet journal and thought about what would I like to do in the coming year. And that also kind of inspired me to do the Make 9, which I will talk about in a minute. Now, this crochet journal starts out where you can list There are various ones out there. I bought my girlfriend one as well, and hers has a funny saying on the front, and I think you've seen it. The first has a page where you can list down your projects. Now, I think probably most people would list their projects as they decide to do them. And I'm the other way around. I went through a lot of the patterns that I had and made a list of the projects I would really like to do this year. Just ones that I have been putting off. There's things I really want to accomplish. Like I said in the fall, I wanted to make myself a sweater. Didn't get it even started, but it is on my list to get started. And maybe a couple of sweaters and so on. So I listed as much as I could on these pages, and I realize already I'm going to have to get a second journal for the year. I do make a large volume of items in 1 year. I know some people save the ball bands from the yarn they use, and at the end of the year they count them and they figure out the amount of yarn they used. I'm not going to be doing anything like that, but I do want for the first time to keep a record of what I do as the year goes on. It has a page to put the information about the pattern and the yarn you used and the hook size. And I'm going to find that helpful because you know how you start a project and then it gets put to the side and I go back to it 6 months later, a year, 2 years later. I can't remember what hook I used. I had a plan and I didn't follow through on that plan to keep track. And so I think this is going to be very helpful for me for that kind of thing. But I also really want to know how much I accomplish in a year. And I know I accomplished a lot last year, but I couldn't begin to tell you how many. This book has room for 50, 53 or something like that. I know I'll fill this book and maybe a second book, so we'll keep track together. So that was one of the first things I decided on for this year, was to get myself a journal and keep a record of the pattern. That will help me for my YouTube channel by recording the pattern, who the designer was, what yarn I used, possibly what stitches were in it, and put some samples of the yarn and possibly a picture of the finished item. So hopefully that will keep me on track for the year. The next thing I did, and I actually did it before the new year, I planned this through December, is I put together something called a Make 9. Now, I first saw this idea almost a year ago. I'm pretty sure the first time I saw it was Seta had a Make 9. Seta from Seta's Place. Hi, Seta. I doubt you're watching this, but in case if you are, she had put together a Make 9, and she was talking how she'd made one the year before, and there was an item that she didn't get made, so she put it on to the new year for 2021. And throughout the year, she showed us the items she was making on her Make 9. And very soon after that, I then saw Gary from Urban Yarn. And again, I don't think he's watching, but if you are, hi, Gary. Gary also made a Make 9. And I don't know if he completed it all this year, but he did show us some of the items he was making on it. And both of them referred to other creators that had this Make 9, and that sort of set me thinking, I might like to do that. Now the Make 9, the Make 9 is not meant to be pressure. Hang on a second. If you wonder what I'm drinking, I'm not a tea or coffee drinker. Never drink them. This happens to be a mixture of grape juice and ginger ale. And that's what I drink most of the time. Juice, ginger ale, things like that. Anyway, my throat was dry. They both mentioned that the Make 9 was not meant to put pressure on you. You don't have to complete those in the year, but they are, I guess, a guideline. Everybody has a different reason for selecting the items on their Make 9. I'll tell you mine in a minute. And if you don't finish them, that's fine. Like Seta put one on to the next year. And I happen to know that the one she put on to this year from last year, she didn't complete it again. So I think she has decided she's going to leave it off and probably not make it. Then I also, towards the end of the year, I came across Michelle from Crochet. It's a long name. I will link all three of those creators in my description box below. And maybe you want to go back to last year and see what they did. Although Michelle talked about hers the end of November and in December, and showed the very last episode this year, she showed the items on her Make 9 and what she completed. And she completed them all, I understand. So my thinking when gathering them up was I will make way more than 9. So trying to limit it down to 9, I decided I would pick things that were different than I have ever tackled before, a little more unique. Yes, I'll do a shawl, but I won't do a shawl like the ones I've done before. I'll do like, I've never done a semicircular shawl. That's one of my choices. I would pick things that maybe had a challenge in them, and a couple of them do have a challenge in them. 2 or 3 of them have a challenge in them, or they're made differently, or they have a new stitch I've never tried. That's how I selected my items on the Make 9. And I'm going to, right now, I'm going to put a picture in here of the 9 of them. And then I'm going to take a minute, more than a minute, a few minutes, and go through my Make 9 and tell you just a little bit about them. Now, in some cases, I actually got going through my stash and I picked out yarn to do the items. In other cases, I thought I'll do whatever the mood strikes me at the time, but I did want to pre-plan a few of them. So I'm going to start by showing you the items one by one. I have them in a file on my iPad. And so I'm going to show you the item, tell you why I selected it, and if I have yarn picked, I will show you the yarn. Now, the only problem in here, I have great light, but they are fluorescent tubes, so I'll have to find out. There we go. Oh, I see, just tip it. So there's the back of it, and I really liked the hexagon shape, but the front of it, the hexagon stops, and then you do wide strips off both sides and make it into a wrap. So it's a very long wrap. And I really like the idea. It was a totally new construction to me. And actually, I saw this one on Seta's Make 9. And this is the item she did not make in 2 years. But this is going to be the first one I start. And I will probably start it sometime in January. Definitely won't be using these colors. But I really liked my fingers on the screen. I really like the different construction, and I think I'm going to enjoy, and this is giving me ideas for other items to make. So that's the first item I'm going to make, and I picked out yarn for this one already. I have some yarn that I had for a while. I ordered it for a sweater, and then it wasn't what I wanted for a sweater, but I still like the yarn. And this is yarn from Expression Fiber Arts. It's going to take 2 of this color. So let me tell you what this is. This is Cash Silk Sock, and I love their Cash Silk Sock. It is made of 75% superwash wool, 15% cashmere, 10% silk. And it's going to take probably only 1, but this is also cash silk sock in the different colorways. So this will be the dark part that looked kind of brown or black in the picture, and this will be the white. They have some color in them that goes together, and I think I'm going to like them together. So they are cash silk sock, which is a fingering weight yarn, and nice and soft. So it'll make a very nice wrap. The second one I'm interested in doing is called the Jazzy Barista Shawl. And for those of you that follow Expression Fiber Arts, you'll recognize Shandy there. And I think they do this in Dewey DK. I believe they did it in Dewey DK, but I'm not going to. I only picked it because I have been looking for patterns to put two colors together in, and I want to try it first in this big heavy yarn. I have DK but not Dewey DK, and then I think I might try it again in fingering weight. And the other thing is I wanted to see how big it would be if I only did, say, the first 3 sections and left off these last 2. And I chose the yarn for that. Wait till you see this. This one is bright. I chose this for the neutral color. It's a gray. This is called Sparkle DK, and it's 60% superwash merino, 26% nylon, 10% baby alpaca, and 4% metallic. So that will be the light color in it. And this will be the busy color. Gorgeous. Bright, but this will tone it down. And I think these are going to look great together. And what do you see? You see sparkles. I'm really looking forward to making this. This is very soft. And because it's DK, it's going to be heavier than a lot of the things that I make. Lovely. Can't wait to start that one. That is number 2. And although I don't plan to do one a month, if the other one gets started and finished in January, this one will get done in February. I have a few other things, though, that I have to do. I've committed to testing a pattern. More about that future days. And I also I've talked to somebody about designing a pattern. Whether that'll happen or not, I don't know. More when I know. Okay, the third one I want to do is called After the Sunshine. And I have never done anything quite as big as this. I did the Asgard shawl from Reggie, and it did have these sections, although I don't know how many hers had. This one looks much bigger. And it is done with a gradient cake. And I'm pretty sure I wasn't trying to match it, but I have this gradient cake and I decided I would use it. I will probably make it bigger than the pattern calls for, because I have a gradient that calls for 1,000 and I have a gradient cake of 1,200. And so I'm thinking I might use this gradient cake. I think it's going to be gorgeous. But there is something else I kind of have in mind that this would be good for as well. So stay tuned. It may change when the time comes. Okay. That's that. That's number 3. Number 4 is, I have to go over to Ravelry to show you a good picture of it. Number 4 is called the Love Me Tender, And you know how I enjoy patterns from CJ Brady. I want to get it close, but without that, okay, there we go. This is a typical looking pattern from CJ Brady. And I've done lots of her patterns. But what is different about this is that the pattern is made of what's called a stitch called the lover's knot. I have never ever done a lover's knot. I tried it once, didn't work, and I gave up. I haven't chosen the yarn for this, so I'll just pick something out of my nice big stash according to what mood I'm in when the time comes. So that's number 4. This is taking longer than I thought it would. Then number 5 is called Unique Poncho. Now, I've looked at this for a long time. I don't think this will be hard to do, but the poncho is different in that it has a lot of different colors and a variety of stitches. And honestly, I haven't chosen the yarn for that yet. What I am thinking of doing is using a Red Heart Unforgettable, but I have to look at this more closely because it looks thicker. I think Unforgettable isn't thick enough, but I'm not sure. Anyway, possible. Next one is this. And the reason for my selecting this shawl is that, get the picture here, I have not ever done a circular shawl. And I want to do a circular shawl. And that has a variety of stitches in it. So I'm looking forward to doing that. And the yarn I have selected for it, it's gorgeous, is this. I think I will start at the outside and work in so that it starts with the light color and ends with the dark color. That's what I think I will do with that. So that was number 6. Number 7 is up in the air about yarn. I have been looking at various yarns. Another poncho. This is unique in that this is, I don't know if you can really tell, but this is a shawl and the black is a shawl. Now the one shawl is entirely black. The other shawl starts black and then it uses various colors throughout the rows. And I want to do it similar. It may, sorry about that. I must have hit something. It may be navy instead of black. Depends. I have ordered some thicker yarn. As you know, I don't have a lot of 4-weight, and I think this would require 4-weight. I definitely don't have solids like that black. And my thinking is, instead of ordering a whole bunch of yarns of different colors, that I would instead use something like this just to do that section. So it would be its own colors. There is another one from Red Heart, and it is black with multicolors, but I didn't want to put more black in it when the base was black. So I might use this. If I can come up with a different idea, this yarn might get used for the previous poncho. I think it would be good for that. We'll see. That's a possibility. Then number 8. Number 8 is a pattern I found just before Christmas. I've never seen anything like this. I need something to set this on up a little higher. Now that is made, as you can see, across the top is a band, so there's several rows going back and forth, and then you mark it to come out with these wedges. And I did select the yarn for that. I happen to have some yarn I never knew what to do with in my stash, so I decided this would be a perfect yarn. It's a little thinner than I would like, so I have lots of it, so I'm going to double it up. And these are the 3 colors I'm going to put in that. I think it'll be very pretty, a little bit different. So that's the yarn I've selected for that one. Once again, there it is. And finally, my last item on the Make 9 is a poncho. It's called Tropical Poncho. And this is as big as I can get the picture. It is made with granny squares, which isn't unusual, but the granny squares are very lacy at the edge. What's going on here? The granny squares are very lacy at the edge and have to be joined at the, I think they're little picots or something at the edge. To me, that will be a challenge, joining it. And my thinking is that I'm going to make one granny square, and then the next granny square, when I get to the last row, because I don't know how you're going to join these one stitch in a picot, and then what do you do with your thread? You got to tie in an end. So I'm thinking at the join points, I'm going to do one and then do the second one and slip stitch at each of those places. I don't know if it'll work or not, but I'm going to try it. This is my very last one, so if I don't get something done, this will be the one that doesn't get done, because it really will be a challenge. The square won't be, but the assembly of this, I think, is the challenge to making this. But it's very gorgeous, but I've got lots of time to pick out a yarn that I can use for it. So that brings me to the end of my Make 9. Let me just quickly put the picture up there again so you can see them all together. Now, I wanted to show you some yarn today, but this is getting longer than I expected. So I just want to say a couple of other things. In planning for the year, a few other things, a few other ideas I have for the year. One of them are changes. You know, we all talk about it's a new beginning, it's a new start. Well, I'm going to make one little change, and that is I'm going to try a new video editor program, because I'm very limited in what I can do with the program I'm using. And I'm going to try it out on this video, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. Bear with me if there are problems. And the other thing that I would like to make a conscious effort to do this year is to find new indie dyers. As you know, I'm all about hand-dyed yarn. Nothing against all the other, but lots and lots of creators bring you information about the yarn that you can get in the big box stores. And I use it too. But I have loved and bought lots of hand-dyed yarns and not used very much of it. So I'm going to make a conscious effort to use more this year, but I'm also going to make a conscious effort to find more dyers and to share that information with you. I received a long list of Canadian indie dyers, and I have been through the East Coast already of company names. Some of them don't make the kind of thing I use. Some of them put their yarn in shops, yarn shops, and I can't buy from them direct. But I really want to bring more Canadian content, as I am a Canadian. And I also go through Etsy and always check out hand-dyed yarn there, and a lot of that is from the US, quite a bit from the UK as well. And so I will be bringing yarn from the US probably. I'm going to stick with Canada and the US. I already made my first purchase yesterday, I think it was, of hand-dyed yarn from a Canadian dyer in, I believe she was in Montreal. I know she was in Quebec, and I'm pretty sure she was in Montreal. And that'll be here soon. So I'm hoping to bring you and share with you more hand-dyed yarns. I know not all of you will use them, but I'm sure you like to see them and admire the gorgeous yarns. And it isn't all Expression Fiber Arts, although I do love their yarns and will use them more. But that is the one thing I am going to do more of, is to show you hand-dyed yarns from indie dyers across Canada and the US. So that brings me to what's happening next week. Well, if you recall, in my first episode, I told you that I bought yarn from 3 companies around the world, not Canada, and it were different yarn. It wasn't the kind of yarn that you see in a lot of places. And I did show you the yarn from South Africa already at the very beginning. And then I think it was in November, I showed you the yarn from Plata in Bulgaria, some very unusual yarn. And I still have the third one to do. So I'm going to do that company called Tessaland, and they are in Italy. And I'm going to show you what I ordered from them next week. All yarns you haven't seen in any other company. These are made by them, or made for them, probably. But they are different. And some of them I liked well enough that I actually made a second order at the time to get enough in the yarn to make something that I wanted to make. So next week's episode is going to be a little bit long, because I have that yarn to show you. And I promised you the other yarn from Little Vicious Stitches, and I had it out to show you today, but I just don't want to make this video any longer. So I think there will be enough time next week to show you the rest of what I ordered from Little Vicious Stitches in Germany. So hopefully you'll come back and want to see the yarn that I have purchased next week. And until then, happy hooking.